What's going on, everyone? This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The Minnesota Golden Gophers are up next. I'll give you an official prediction on this team, give you my thoughts on this team, go through the schedule, and we will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this Minnesota team. 2021, the Minnesota Golden Gophers went 9-4 overall. Minnesota was a great team last year. They were really, a great defensive team. I'll get to the rankings in just a minute. But this Minnesota team had a pretty good season last year, after not having a good season in 2020. This Minnesota team got back to where they once were in 2019. I think I'm expecting Minnesota to be another great team this year. I'm expecting the offense to be great. Offensively and defensively in the rankings last year, they were 83rd on offense. That offense will be probably improved this year, I'd say by a lot. I think the offense is going to be really, really good this year. Maybe not explosive, but I think they will have enough to maybe be a top 30 offense this year. Defensively, 6th in the country last year. They were really a great defensive team. It won't be the same defense as it was from last year. I think this defense is going to be a little bit young, but they still have, quite a bit coming back. But the points per game and opponents per game on both sides of the ball, Minnesota 25.5 points on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they gave up 17.3 points. That's not bad numbers there. The overall offense, though, I think, maybe needs to get to that 30-point category. I think they will get there this year probably, but I think the defense will be a little bit young. Let's be honest. I think the defense is going to be a little bit young, but they're still going to have some key players. They do return quite a lot on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think they're going to be an explosive offense, but I think they still have a shot to maybe be a great offense. And here's that schedule for Minnesota in 2022. They open up with New Mexico State on September 1st. Then they have Western Illinois. So you start out with two easy non-conference games, and I think that both of those are wins there for Minnesota. Those games right there, they have no business in losing those, and I think Minnesota does beat these two teams to begin the season. They'll start out 2-0. There's a home game against Colorado on September 17th. Colorado out of the Pac-12. Colorado's a team that I'm not really high on this year. A lot of people are not expecting this team to be that good either. They had a downfall season last year as well, but I think Colorado's just really going to be so young on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they are going to bring quite a lot back, but I still don't think Minnesota should have any problems in this game. I think this is a game that Minnesota can win by 3 touchdowns, maybe a couple, but I think this is a game they will win, and I think they start out 3-0 before opening up Big Ten play, and they play Michigan State on the road. Tough game here on September 24th. Michigan State and Minnesota. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm really saying it right now. Minnesota will hang around in this game. It depends on how good the defense will be for Minnesota. I mean, can they really get their offense going on the field? Could they get, Michigan State's offense off the field? I think this will be a game that can go maybe in the first half, but I think the second half, I think Michigan State will step up. I think this is a tough place to play as well. It's on the road. I don't really see Minnesota pulling off a big win here on the road at Michigan State. So that's a tough draw there out of the East as well. You get Michigan State out of the East this year, but I think Minnesota will hang around in the first half, but I think it won't be enough for Minnesota to pull off an upset if Michigan State was ranked in the top 25. Next game is at home against Purdue on October the 1st. Purdue is going to be an interesting team this year as well. They were really good last year. The offensive side of the ball really should be explosive for that Purdue side. I think, overall Purdue, though, I think these two teams, it also could decide, the Western Division in the Big Ten. I mean, it depends what Iowa does. It depends on what Iowa does, at the end of the season. But this is an early game in October, and I don't really see, both of these teams won't be better by, the middle of October. But I got to tell you, with this one being at home, I got to go with Minnesota. If Purdue was ranked in the top 25 by this point, I would say this being an upset. I think Minnesota does come out with the win against Purdue. I know it sounds crazy, but I think, Purdue, or actually Minnesota will win. I think, it's one of those upset alert type games as well. If Minnesota wasn't ranked in the top 25, I think I can see them, pulling off an upset. I think they'll be fired up in this one after, after a loss to Michigan State as well. So I'm expecting Minnesota to pull off an upset. And then there's that game on the road at Illinois. They get a bye week before playing this game. I really don't see Illinois being all that competitive this year. I know Illinois went 5-7 last year. They probably are heading in the right direction, but I think they still have a long way to go before they compete with the Big Ten. Let's be honest. And now the Big Ten you might be extending some teams next year. We don't really know the status of that, but I think, Minnesota should go in there on the road and defeat Illinois. I think the bye week helps them out pretty well in this one, and I think they will defeat Illinois on the road. Next game is on the road at Penn State on October 22nd. This one is another interesting game. Penn State going to be a team that has a lot of question marks, but like I said, this is a tough game to play. It's on the road as well, and you get Penn State out of the East this year as well. That's really not that easy there. I mean, it's really hard for Minnesota to play some of these big East teams, but Penn State, I think, is probably, not even close to being the first team in the Big Ten East this year. I think they're about 5th, maybe behind Maryland or Michigan. I don't know. I mean, obviously Ohio State. I mean, Penn State has got going to have an interesting team this year, but I don't really see them, being all that good. But I think this is an upset. I think, Penn State does, win this one. I think it's a game that can go either way, but I think with it being on the road, if Minnesota was ranked in the top 25 by this point, that's one of those upset alert games as well. And I see Penn State pulling off a win here. I mean, just because it's on the road as well, I really see this team going there. And I got the Rutgers taking care of business. I don't really see the Rutgers, beating Minnesota this year. I don't think the Rutgers will be all that talented as well. I mean, I know they're heading, seems like in the right direction, but I still think they have a long way to go before they compete with the Big Ten, to be honest with you guys. So, I mean, that's how it's going to work there. So, Minnesota is 6-2 now heading into November, and they play Nebraska on the road. Really tough game here. And I know Nebraska, had a lot of close games last year. They had a lot of ups and downs. They are looking to really, be a dangerous team. I think Nebraska is going to be a team to look out for. I'm not really high on them, but this is one of those upset alert type games. I mean, it's one of those other upset alert type games. If Minnesota was ranked in the top 25 by this point, maybe top 15, I'm seeing Nebraska pulling off a win. I think Nebraska is going to pull off the win here at home against Minnesota. I mean, Nebraska is going to be a close game. I know Nebraska doesn't return a lot, but I think they'll be fired up. I think Nebraska will win, and I think Minnesota does lose one of those games. That pretty much ruins their, chances maybe making it to the Big Ten championship. But I think Nebraska is just going to be fired up, and I think they will be ready to play against Minnesota. And I think Nebraska does win that game on November 5th. Next game is Northwestern here on November 12th. Northwestern is a team that's kind of like an underdog team in the Big Ten. I think, I'm seeing this Northwestern team maybe making it to a bowl game this year. But the question is, how good will they be? I mean, they do return half and half on both sides of the ball. But I think Minnesota is looking for redemption. They're looking for, a win here in order to get back to winning ways. And I think they do get one here. I think they do defeat Northwestern. And then there's that game against Iowa on November 19th. Big game here in the Big Ten West. I mean, this could decide the Big Ten championship or the Western Division here. But, like I said in my Iowa video, I just think Iowa's defense is going to be really good as well as the offense. I know Iowa fans won't agree with that Iowa's defense is going to be good, but I think this is really a talented team. Let's be honest. Iowa, has a lot coming back on the offense. This game is probably going to be a shootout, probably an offensive battle the whole way. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Iowa that does win. This may be a top 25 matchup, maybe a top 15 matchup as well. So, I mean, you could expect this game to go either way. And I think it does go either way overall between these two teams. And I just like Iowa in this game, and I think they do win it. And then there's that final game on the road at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a team that I'm not really high on. Let's be honest, I've been high on Wisconsin for a long time these days, but this is actually the first time that I'm not really high on this team. I know Wisconsin, had an up and down season last year. The question is, can they really be that good? I mean, this is a game that can be an upset alert game as well. But I think Minnesota is going to be, ready to be fired up in all these games in November. They should be better by the end of the year as well. This might be an offensive shootout as well, but I think I'm going to go with Minnesota. I think they do go on the road and defeat Wisconsin, but it's a game that they could potentially lose. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a game they could potentially lose. Minnesota has a chance maybe to go 9-3 this year. Maybe, 10-2 is possible. But the overall prediction I have for Minnesota is 8-4. I think it's, a really good prediction for them. I mean, Nebraska's a huge loss there, but this is a game they still could potentially win. But give me your thoughts on this Minnesota team down in the comments below, and stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.